talk about some near-death experiences, shall we? All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. Hey, what's up, America? Welcome to Goodnight America. I'm America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. On this show, what we do is we talk to the world's greatest authors, mostly nonfiction, because who reads fiction besides the ladies? Today's guest, Robert Christopher Copus. He's a scientist and retired financier. He studied near-death experiences for decades and has lectured on this topic in the U.S. and in Europe. His latest book on near-death experiences is called Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, which is a compilation of hundreds of quotes from experiencers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be on your show. And I see a lot of television cameras there. And my book, that's nice.
It's very fancy. Yes, this is very fancy setup. Anything, just listen, the best for you. I do it for you. All right, let's talk about near-death experiences. I don't think Western medicine wants to hear about this shit. Western medicine doesn't like anything that has to do with the soul or consciousness. Isn't this true, like at a macro level?
Well, yeah, but we're getting there. There's a lot of doctors that have come across a number of examples there, especially nurses, because they are at the first line that patients will see, and they trust the nurses. So a lot of cases are also reported to nurses and sometimes to doctors. But there are a number of doctors that really are interested in getting to know what they are, what NDEs are, near-death experiences.
I think we're such materialists that if you can't measure it and observe it, we pretend that it doesn't exist. But there's no way. I mean, we're humans. So they can't find. I'm sure modern medicine has looked at millions of brains of dead people and really gotten in there, smushed around, looked at it under a microscope. Just because you can't find it. I get it. But you can't just say because we can't find it, it doesn't exist, because we're human. We're experiencing the thing that we can't find, which is, I know it's probably frustrating and annoying, but you can't just outright dismiss it. Right?
No, that's true. But the funny thing is, the doctors are still very, very much realistic, even though there are so many of these stories, and also verified stories of people that weren't out of their body and saw stuff and came back in their body again and talked about these things that they saw. That was confirmed later on. But nowadays, doctors also try to find where in the brain the part is where the consciousness is, or where the NDEs come from. So they stimulate parts of the brain in the hope that they will find something. And they do find that if you stimulate this part, people will have the idea that there is a flash of light or so. Or if you do the other part, that you have the feeling of something else that is maybe some part of the NDE. But you cannot have the whole experience by doing all kinds of stimulations of the brain. Moreover, when people really get out of their body and they roam around in the hospital, in the operating dome, or where the crash site of their car is, and they see things and they come back later and they say, I've seen this and that. I've seen the doctors talk about this, and they use this and this kind of medical instruments, or the crash site, or something else. Also, some people really tell what they've seen on the other side, where they have spoken to, for instance, a brother that had died before, that they didn't know of, and they come back again, and that those things are confirmed independently. So in the case of the brother, the parents didn't want to tell the sister that she had a brother before her, but who died so soon, in a few days or a few hours. So they didn't tell her. And then when she went having her NDE later on in her life, she came back with the knowledge that there was this brother. Now, these kind of things you cannot do by stimulation of the brain in whatever way you want to do that.
She got it was like cosmic 23andMe. It's about. Yeah. So what do you think that consciousness exists outside of the physical body?
The thing is that until now, the materialistic doctors, or the Western medicine, which is very materialistic in the sense that they think only about matter, They think that the consciousness is created by the brains or in the brains. That's why they do all these funny things with the brains in order to find out where it is. But with these near-death experiences, we understand now that your consciousness can be outside your body. It doesn't need your body to exist. And that we know from these veridical observations, so verified out-of-body experiences that I spoke about just before. So we think the consciousness is somewhere else and continues being there, even though the body dies. So the materialistic body dies, something else still remains. And how it remains there, we don't know. That's the interesting part. Do we still have the same consciousness that we are here now? Like, I am Bob and you're Eric. You're the host of the show. You're doing your role in life. Will that be the same when you die? Will you still be the host? Will you still be the same person? I don't think so. I think things will change.
I think when you're trying to understand something that's weird, generally you try to understand it from your own experience. So I talk about this a lot on the show, but I used to float a lot in sensory deprivation tanks. Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're in there, they say that your brain goes into a theta wave meditation state, which is one of the more intense meditation states. I'm a fan generally of psychedelics, particularly mushrooms, because no one ever sprinkles fentanyl on mushrooms. They're pretty safe. But I have 2 young kids, so I can't take mushrooms as often as I wish I could. But they would always say that, or it's been said that 5, ounces, grams, whatever. I can't measure. But the heroic dose, a big factor of the heroic dose is ego death. And I never really understood that term until you look into it. And it has nothing to do with how we think of the ego, like he has such a big ego. It has to do with you separating from your physical form. Now I was like, oh shit, that used to happen to me all the time when I was floating. You're off in the ether. You're in space. I do think it feels like you're separated from your body. Your physicality disappears. But I will say, when I was reading some of the studies of near-death experiences, they still seem physical. They can see. You know what I mean? So my only thing here is that when I'm floating and it feels like this is sort of on the same wavelength and in the same zip code, I don't have a physical body. I can't. It's very mental. What you're saying here, though, is that people have seen doctors talk about them. They've seen their grandmothers smoke. You can tell that story. They've seen doctors instructing people with their elbows instead of their hands, and they couldn't articulate why he was doing that, but they were observing. Yeah. So I guess my only point is I've had experiences outside of the body experiences because of chemicals, and it's just you're gone. You're out there. You're not physical. These people are ostensibly gone, but they're still very much in their physical form. What is there any sense to be made here?
Well, the question is, are they in their physical form? The fact that they can see doesn't mean that they have eyes.
That's the hang up, I think. It seems like you need eyes to see, But maybe.
So that's where you go wrong, I think. When you're dead or when you're out of your body, you don't have eyes because they are in your body. But the thing is that you can still sense what is out there. And you do that in a way that we don't understand. When NDEs talk about seeing things, it is always in a way that you don't understand, because some people say, I could see 360 around me. I had the feeling that I could be in the ideas or the thoughts of the nurse. I could be also on another side of the country, but at the same time be in the operating dome where my body was, and at the same time in the house where my mother was cooking her dinner, totally being unaware that I was in the hospital after this car accident. Those are real cases that are in my book. So the seeing part is not that you see with your eyes, but there is a kind of an awareness. But it's an awareness that is so very correct, because you can see the details. You can see better than with your eyes. Your eyes are just a means or a tool that we have developed over the billions of years to be able to see. but it is not the real thing. We see part. We don't see everything.
We're so
And
bound by our human experience, I think, that it's difficult for us to
that is
conceptualize.
the case.
Well, I think that too a lot, and it seems very. I think the theory seems dumb on its surface, but I don't think it is. The fact that we can see as humans is only because we have eyes. We have these eyeball goo balls welded to our skull. The only reason we can hear is that we have ears. The only reason we can touch is because we have nerves and our fucking shit. But we know, for example, black holes, I think, can only be seen under infrared light or something. So we know that there's stuff out there that we can't see because we don't have the physical parts to experience them. And not just see, there's frequencies our ears can't pick up, but we know exist.
Yes.
So there's a lot that's outside our understanding, but I think humans are just very materialists in general because we only have our own experiences, which are very physical, to help us understand the world. So once you get out of that, I think it's hard to wrap your head around. And this is that.
Yeah, you also there's if you read through all the NDEs and you hear people talk, then they it's difficult for them to explain what they see, what they went through, because there are no words or concepts enough in our world to explain that. So you have to understand that the other world is so much bigger. That's what they say. I just quote NDEs. They say this other world is so much bigger. So the way they describe what they see or hear there or feel, because those are the things that we do here on Earth, is different. There are people that say the colors were not just only to be seen, but I could smell them. We don't understand what they mean. But that is what they say. There's more to it than just seeing things. You get the whole thing, and the whole thing is much bigger than what we have here with the things that we developed here. Our hands that feel, or our eyes that see, our ears that hear. There is much more there on the other side, and how that works, we don't know. It's because probably this otherworldly environment is so much different from our world that we don't have words, because there are things there that we have never seen or cannot see, and so we don't have a word for it or a concept. So that makes it difficult to talk to NDEs. The other thing they say is that the other side, where they were, is much more real than where we are now. We think that this is real. You're sitting there on the other side of the ocean. I'm sitting here in Amsterdam. But in that other world, I would be able to be with you in the same room, drink coffee, and then be back again. That's how it is.
Have you, there's this podcast series called The Telepathy Tapes. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
So this is where nonverbal autistics can, well, they say they can do a lot of things. One of which is they can see through their mother's eyes and read what she's reading. It always seems to be the mother. The other thing is that nonverbal autism.
There's such a bond with the mother normally. Yeah.
Right. So this is the physical part of it. The out in the ether part is they say that nonverbal autistics from all over the world reference this same thing. They call it the hill, which is where they all go to speak through telepathy. Which is it's again, it's one of these things that's hard to wrap your head around and hard to believe in. But I don't know if you've listened to the podcast. The tests, they pass 100% of the time, every time. It's wild. Yeah. They know people's names that they talk to across the world who they can't. They're nonverbal autistics. So again, I'm generally a skeptic, but in the face of some of this stuff, it's hard to say there's nothing there.
Yeah, but you can also go to a medium, but there's a lot of different kinds of medium. If you go to a real good one, there are many good ones. You will be able to have contact with, or they are able to get contact with deceased relatives or friends of yours, and they can give you details that are so correct. They know these things, and they don't know it because they know it themselves. No, they get that information from somewhere else. And the idea is that there is a pool of information out there that they can tap into. And NDEs as an after effect, if you have had an NDE, that's difficult in itself. It's nice to have an NDE, but coming back is difficult. And one of the things is that you change a lot, so you become less materialistic, more interested in friends and relatives and social contacts. But some of these people also get mediumistic experiences or being psychic, and they get to see through time, or they can have contact with others. And the idea is that because they have been on the other side, there is still some kind of link there. There's a little wire still there, or as I say, it's like the door is still ajar. They can't escape through the door to the other side, but they can hear and see things from the other side, and that makes them changed in that way. NDEs change people thoroughly.
Yeah. My only thing with mediums is I think there's a lot of charlatans and heretics
Yeah.
out there, because I know this. If I go to show me a medium, right? I go, oh, you talking to my grandmother right now? What's my name?
Yeah.
My grandmother should know my name. You know what I mean? And there's zero chance they ever give you hard, like, all right, what's if my mother died?
There are evidential mediums there. They
right,
give, that's the thing. They give you evidence of details that only you know of your grandmother.
Right. I just want to hear my name. I just want to hear one medium go. I walk in, they know
Well,
nothing about me.
a name is maybe difficult, but other things that are important,
right,
like what did she do? What was the important things that she had in her life? Maybe very detailed things like stuff she had, like furniture or whatever. They can give you very detailed information.
I'm sure, but it is conceptually bizarre. They can't give me like, what's my social security number? My grandmother, my mother would know that. Anyway, all right. So
yeah, but the social security number is not important on the other side. So
but if I'm asking, I'm like, hey, medium, just my grandmother's right, or whatever. I mean, my blood type, whatever that thing is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Her favorite episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. No one's ever, like, what is this? Fuck, just tell me this thing,
Yeah.
DMT. Do you have an opinion on DMT being in the pineal gland, and then that being the source of these?
I know what DMT is. I know what it does. I know it can give you bad trips. I've heard people talk about trips they had that were really, really bad. They give you sort of maybe similar experiences as near-death experiences. But again, the difference is where they really get out of their body and can see other things in other rooms and stuff like that, or where they see deceased relatives that give them information that is correct about things that these deceased people have had during their life, or things that will happen in the future. So I would like to see more research done in that area, because I'm open to anything. Maybe DMT is something that can go a long way with NDEs, but I think. But I'd like to see that researched. I think there's a difference. Yes, and that's what I just mentioned. I don't think you can have the whole near-death kind of experience with DMT.
Yeah. So I did look up in 2019, researchers at the University of Michigan did detect DMT in the brains of rats during cardiac arrest, giving this theory some backing. But here's where I think
it doesn't prove anything.
No, it doesn't. But I'm gonna wrap this up kind of. So there's a lot of people that have taken DMT and then gone to YouTube to explain their experiences. Many are very similar. They say that you go out into the ether, you go through a tube of sacred geometry, and in the end, you speak to some sort of non-human intelligent being.
Yeah,
that's compelling. That's a lot like psychedelic trips on mushrooms, where everybody gets on the same wave. You feel sort of ethereal and connected. And I don't think that disproves anything having to do with near-death experiences. If DMT is in the pineal gland and it is released upon a near-death experience or whatever else, everything that humans experience is a chemical reaction in our brain. Doesn't mean it's not real. It is. Like right now, we're going through a million different experiences chemically in our brain right now. We just don't give credence to them because they happen all the fucking time. So if this happens then and you see stuff, it could still be true. Just because it's chemicals doesn't make it false. You know what I mean? Like when you're on psychedelics, if you're ever on any tryptamine, that shit, that it's happening. It's definitely happening, you know? And to my point, drink coffee, that's a chemical experience. That's happening too. So I don't think skeptics or spiritualists in this case are entirely right or entirely wrong. Just, DMT could be the thing, but it doesn't, just because it's a chemical doesn't mean it's not the experience isn't real. You know what I mean?
As I said before, I would like to see more research on that, because I would think that's my theory, or my thesis would be like DMT or mushrooms or whatever can go a long way, but it cannot do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the thing that it cannot do is where you really are outside of your body, you can with full consciousness feel and see what is happening elsewhere,
Right.
even hundreds of kilometers away from where your body is, or in the other world. So people would call that heaven, where they get information that they can bring back again to their body, and that proves independently later to be correct, so that it needs to be confirmed independently later.
You know what the
Those
problem
are
is?
critical observations, and they are very important.
Yeah. The problem is, and I interviewed a woman who was talking about nutrition facts on the back of food, and she goes, the problem with nutrition is that humans are horrible test subjects. So for a long time, one of the blueberry campaigns said that it could help with erectile dysfunction. But because we're horrible test subjects, you can't lock us in a cage, only feed us blueberries and see if we get more erections.
Yeah.
So you could just go, this guy, he didn't and eat blueberries and he did. So here's the thing with this. You can't almost kill humans and then study what happens afterwards. We're just horrible test subjects.
It would be immoral to do that. So you will never have a scientific proof of a near-death experience in that way, because it's immoral to do it like that. But there are so many of these experiences that are veridical, so that are proven later independently to be correct, what they say, like the things that they bring back with them in information, that it gives you circumstantial evidence that NDEs are real. And the International Association of Near-Death Experiences have published a book with hundreds of these experiences. And let me just flash the book at you. I hope I can put it there. Is The Self Does Not Die. It tells you that there are, in this book, there are hundreds of these quotes, and it's published by the International Association for Near-Death Studies.
Let me ask you this. Back to DMT real quickly, only because so everybody that takes this, regardless, it seems, of religious affiliation, race, creed, sex, whatever, they all have the same experience. Again, floating through a tube of sacred geometry, going to the end, speaking to a non-human intelligent being.
Yeah.
In your experience in this book, talking to hundreds of people that have had near-death experiences, there's some classic tropes that we believe in from the outside, that life flashes before your eyes, that you go towards some light, perhaps. Maybe you're talking to a dead relative. In your experience, I assume you've talked to people all over the world.
Yes.
Does a preconceived notion of religion or culture or the idea of heaven mainline these experiences, or are they all having something similar? Are they doing something different? Does religion matter? Like, what is there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. These experiences occur everywhere where there are human beings, and maybe even animals have them, but we cannot test them. There is some evidence that some animals have had that. There's a wonderful story about a cat in Australia. Anyway, so everywhere these experiences occur, the things that are always the same is the people talk about unconditional love. What they also say is that we are all one. There's a kind of a oneness, or there is a very close interconnection between everyone on Earth that's felt on the other side, or we are actually one. And the other thing is that a lot of people talk about a life review. I'll talk about that later. But the things that differ are where people see Jesus, or see Muhammad, or see Krishna. Typically, people that are very much into Christianity will not see Muhammad or Krishna.
Right.
And people that are very much believers of Hinduism will not see Jesus. And so there are the differences, but that is, it's, I think that is could be understood in the way that the other side is welcoming us and will do that in whatever way is best for us. If you don't believe in Krishna and you will feel offended by that, if you would see Krishna, they will not present Krishna to you. That's a little bit how I see this.
Yeah.
But the thing that always is the same is the unconditional love. That is so important. And you have to understand what the word unconditional means. It really means without conditions. I've talked to people that have done terrible things in their lives. They have still met with unconditional love. They said, what I did didn't matter there. How I am didn't matter. There was love for me no matter what. And for people that are really into religion, that are very orthodox in any way, will probably not like that, because then why would there be this religion where they exclude other people? On the other side, what I understand, there's no exclusion, there's only inclusion. That's how I understand it from NDEs.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's logical. Why would we make distinctions that are grown here on Earth through cultures? First of all, our nationality that makes us stand out versus others. Like in maybe in your country, being American is much more important than being anyone else, a Canadian or European or Mexican or whatever. In Europe, we have the same thing. People sometimes think being Italian or French is much more important than being another nationality. That's nonsense on the other side, because those are constructs by human brains.
They are, but there's also some, like, again, I think we're trying to make logic of an illogical situation. It's very hard to understand the other side, which is probably why it hasn't been understood. But I'm just saying personally, say somebody murders my family and I get up to heaven and that guy's over there to go, oh, we all fucking love each other, huh? We're all friends now. That's like objectively a problem. I'm up there and Stalin and Pol Pot are my boys. Like, no, you don't get this. Oh, so, okay, so our history's erased. Everybody's cool now. Fuck that shit. There's a lot of suffering down here because of humans. So, yes,
but the thing is, you will not think the same way. Please see it maybe as being on a theater stage. We are all on a theater stage, and then Pol Pot and Stalin and the people you mentioned were also on the stage. They had their roles to play, but once they step off the stage, when they die, they step off the stage and they go home. And they go home to the other side, to heaven or wherever. They are not Pol Pot anymore or Stalin. They are the divine themselves. And they will see their life review. They will see what they did to others. They will feel it from the other side. And those are the life reviews. And those are very interesting, because you get to see what you did to others as if you are the other person. Now imagine being Pol Pot and have to go through all these people that because of you have gone under, have died in a cruel way. That's not a very nice thing to go through.
No, but you got to consider he did it consciously. He knew what he was doing. It's not like he was on Earth going, "What? I did what?"
Yes.
I had no idea. So you're assuming now that Heavenly Pol Pot now has a
but you have done things consciously as well that may not be nice. I have done these things too.
Right.
And
but
sometimes unconsciously. But the thing is that it's not, you get to feel it from the other side, and not as a punishment, or not as, not as a punishment, but to understand the place you have on Earth. That is supposedly to be the only thing. And I can only repeat what NDEs say. They say there's no judgment. Whether I like that or not, with Hitler or Stalin or Pol Pot,
see, I don't.
It's not up to me.
I don't like it. This is why I'm agnostic, because no one's figured this out the way I want them to. I don't believe there's a hell. I don't believe there's anything, but I do like, I would like there to be a hell. Like those guys and whatever, they should be. I just can't wipe your history clean when you die. I keep like, oh, listen, you were a real piece of shit down there, but everybody's happy up here. That doesn't sit well with me. And it flies in the face of how, okay, so why does anyone behave? I can just do whatever the fuck I want. And then for eternity, I'm going to be loved. Oh, great. That doesn't.
You go through your life review first. That's not a very easy feat.
Yeah, but
And
again, you're assuming that you're being
side,
a conscious, like you're assuming Pol Pot now cares. You're going, he's a totally different person now. And now he cares about the murders. You know what I mean? Like a life review, if you're a piece of shit, you're like, oh, this is great. I should have killed more people.
No, but there's an important thing there. You get to see this in the presence of the unconditional love. There is only love. You are in a different way there because there's no limitations. You understand. Suddenly you realize where you came from. You are love. There is divinity within everyone, and then you see what you did to others, which is totally not divine. That's totally not loving. There's no love there. Then you see the discrepancy there. You see the difference between what the real love is and what you've done. That will feel like pain. I can tell you this story about there is Daniel Brinkley. It's an American who had been terrible in schools, nasty student he was, and he says it by about himself. I'm just quoting him, and he went working for an American organization, a government organization, killing how do you say that, people that are against the US.
Okay.
And then he killed them. He shot them down. One time he killed a whole he blew up a whole hotel with 50 people in it just to take out one person. He had his life review, which was he said of this life review, that was so very, very painful, because I had to go through every single life that I took, not only the lives of the guys that I took, but also the children and the wives of these guys that were left behind, how they felt. That's difficult. He said that was such an awful thing to go through. But the other thing was that I was still met with love. There was unconditional love only, because where he is on earth, how he came to become that person on earth, is also based on a lot of things that went before him. He is also, there is something that has to do with the genes that he had, so the wiring in his head, but also the upbringing of him. And that applies to everyone. If you were in the situation where Pol Pot was, or near to him, maybe you would have done the same terrible things, because that was normal at the time. So that's how I try to understand it. I don't understand it, but the only thing that I know is that NDEs say there is unconditional love for everyone, no exception, and you get to see your life review, but also from the other side, from the receiver's side, which makes it different, which gives you pain. No judgment still.
It's annoying, but all right, if that's what happens, I'm not in charge.
I'm just a messenger here.
Right.
It's all in my book that you have there so eloquently next to my head.
Listen, this is what I need. I need you to have a near-death experience, and then I have a near-death experience, and then we argue about it. I think that's the only way to get through this.
Yeah.
I
would like to postpone mine.
Well, okay, let's talk about this near-death experiences. So does it always come from some sort of traumatic event, or do some come from being on the brink of death because of a disease and making a miraculous comeback? Is there some through line with the kind of thing that triggers a near-death experience?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's, most of the near-death experiences that we know, and hence the name, come from situations where people have been near to death because of a cardiac arrest or another medical problem, or because of an accident. But we know now that also people with that have gone through a deep psychological problem, and I'm talking about deep psychological problems, or have been praying or meditating very deeply, and maybe even when they have had then DMT, maybe they have the possibility to be on the other side for a brief moment and come back again.
Right.
And sometimes even spontaneously. Those are very interesting. I've come through across a Danish guy who had a near death experience on the beach, sitting there with a girl that he didn't really know. And then he had a complete NDE with flying out of his body, going into space, seeing the light, seeing a live review, seeing deceased relatives, everything, you name it, he had it. It was very interesting. And I was just sitting on the beach, nothing there.
Okay.
But those are really rare. So don't be afraid by crossing the street or so.
That leads me to my next thought here, which is it's just, okay, it's conceptually bizarre that this thing exists, this pathway of communication to this other side.
Yeah.
Why then does the proximity to death matter in bridging this gap? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why do you have to have a near-death experience in order to communicate with the other side if they're able to be communicated to? That's just a little strange to me. Why can't I do it right now? Why do I almost have to die to have a life review? It would be much better if, like, right now, I'm more than middle-aged, I'm 44, there's no way I'm making it to 88. Right now, it would be nice to, like, get some extra information, you know? But why do I almost have to die?
I would love to grant people like Netanyahu in Israel, or the Hamas people, or maybe even some of your government people, have them have a life review and let them go through what they do to others, or they decide that others have to pull a trigger or so. And then see what the effects are. I believe that we will all be able to see what the whole picture is and how it plays out. So the pain that is in the world, I would be able to feel as well, but also the love. We mustn't forget that there is also a lot of love everywhere. Look at the parents that are there, that love their children, and the children that love their parents, or the friends that love each other. There is a lot of love. We shouldn't discount that. It's very important. But what you say, yeah, well, I don't know. But again, it's not always the case that you have to have a situation near to death with a cardiac arrest or an accident. You can have it in different other ways as well, and also spontaneously, with meditation, with prayer, and maybe even with DMT. I don't know, or mushrooms.
I do think there's something there. It can't not be. Why do we have DMT in our pineal gland? Why? If doses of DMT do a very specific thing to people that's spiritual and, you know, life changing, why does it exist? What everything? I don't think it was an accident. You know, I'm not saying, well, if I'm saying it's not an accident, maybe I'm saying the God I don't believe in put it there, but it's just a hell of a coincidence that not only is the DMT there, but it's in a very important part of our brain that would trigger experiences, spiritual experiences, you know? What do you, has your experience interviewing near-death experience, what do you call them? Patients? Whatever. Has this helped you reconcile your own death? Are you cool? Are you less, I don't know, were you ever afraid? How do you feel about your mortality now?
NDEs typically lose the fear for their death. And as a researcher, I know, and I've spoken to other researchers who hadn't had an NDE, but they move in that direction. They understand. If you read a lot of NDEs, or when you study them, or when you talk to them, you become also some kind of a near-death experiencer. And I have lost my fear of death. Yeah, I'm sure that there is this other thing on the other side, and I will go there, because it's like there is only love, and there is love in me too. There is love in everyone. It's sometimes it's covered by so much, how do you say that politely, so much junk.
Yeah.
Because of our own lives. I mean, if you were born in one of the slums in, you mentioned any country,
right,
and you have seen people killing each other. There's no love, and people cheat each other. What do? This is the way you're brought up.
Yeah.
Can you blame someone for that? I
It's
don't know.
it's hard to reconcile the idea that on the other side is nothing but love, and over here there's so much suffering. You know, what is the point of this? It's sort of illogical. Are we just sent here to suffer and then go somewhere that's great? Why? Why don't you just skip that part? Just let me, you know. And then what happens? Do we spend the rest of eternity just surrounded by love? It doesn't sound bad, but do we get stationed to another planet somewhere? Is our consciousness zapped into another brain that doesn't understand anything? Is constantly searching for meaning? You know, strange.
Let me give you my personal view on that, and that's based on what I've done with NDEs and NDEs, just studying them. I take oneness to extremes.
Okay.
There is only one. So if a child is born, there's a vacancy there. What goes in there? Something must go in there, because otherwise it's a zombie. We can't have zombies here. So the source, or the God, or whatever name you want to give to it, it goes into this little baby, and then leads the life and goes about doing all kinds of things. And why is that? So the idea is that you think you are sitting on the other side of the ocean, and I'm sitting here, and we don't have anything in common except for this this interview.
Yeah.
That's not the case. We are both the source. The source leads our lives, and leads also the lives of all your listeners, leads the lives of all the people that have been in the past and will be there in the future. And why is that? I don't know. But what people say that I interview, some of them say it's because on the other side there's nothing there. It's wonderful. It's just only wonderful. There's no development there. We need this world where there are limitations in time and place,
Yeah.
to have some kind of excitement. Some of these NDEs said God went to the movies, saying he created this world or the movie and then enjoys looking at it, because God will experience life through us, and experience everything. Both sides will feel my side and the other side of the people that I interacted with.
I think the frustrating part is whatever the truth is going to appear to be ridiculous. It has to be ridiculous. No one gives credence to how ridiculous life is. Consider what we're doing right now.
No. You know what I hear from NDEs is that once they are on the other side, they say it makes perfectly sense. It is so well thought of. It's so well constructed. How is it possible that we couldn't have seen it while we are here on Earth? It is very intelligently put together.
Yeah, but again, listen, I'm
being
leaving.
here on this side, you only think, why is this? Why is that there? Why is Pol Pot here? And why this is necessary?
Right. Yeah, like listen, I can't wait. I'm not, listen, I haven't had one, so I can't speak from experience, and I don't want to bring the show down, but I want to take God. I want to bring him to a childhood oncology unit and go, this makes sense to you? Explain it to me. Explain childhood bone cancer to me. Because right now it seems like, okay, there's a God and he's watching it on a movie. Well, why the fucking how about it's just a Disney movie?
God is participating. God is participating in you, in the little child with the bone marrow cancer, and in the parents of the child, and in anyone, being both the victim and the culprit, being the lover and the other lover, to keep it positive.
Right. Well, that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. The thing about God is, like, he can either be all powerful or all good. He can't be both things. If we understand good is don't murder people, you know, because it happens an awful lot. So are you now you work with children, and we should get to, not only you talk to people that have had near-death experiences, but now you work with children and refugees. What are you doing with them?
Well, children that are lingering back in school, I help them with arithmetic, maths, and Dutch language, and that's very nice to do. Children are really nice to work with.
You're,
And
yes.
refugees, I believe that that's my personal opinion. We need to take care of everyone, also the people that are in an unfortunate position. We cannot just say, I have money enough and I don't care about you, because you have to care about yourself. You have the means to do that, your brain or whatever. I don't care about you. We cannot say that, because we are interconnected. There's a link between you and the beggar in the street, whether you want it or not. It is there. That's what I hear from NDEs, and that's what I believe. And that's also what I feel.
This is the frustrating part with me. God should have made more of you, because most people just, oh,
there
refugees
are
are
more of me, and
no, but there's not enough of
I'm
you.
not a
Listen,
saint. Sorry, I'm not a saint. I that's not the case.
well, no, bullshit. Because what we need is, I think the average person hears about refugees and feels bad, and they think that's enough, and myself included. I don't do anything. The real, doing God's work is what you're doing. Not only recognizing that it's a sad situation, but getting off your ass and going and doing something about it. That's godliness to me. Why didn't he make more of you and less of the other assholes like me who does nothing?
I'll give you an assignment, and also your listeners, because that's what I heard from one of the NDEs. And she said, it's not only the big things that count, it's also the small things, like smiling at someone that you don't know. And I learned that from her, and I'm trying to put that in practice, and it's not always easy. What I try to do is to smile 3 times a day at someone that I don't know. I mean, it's easy to smile to my friends because they will smile back to me. But do it to someone at the cashier, or in the shop, or on in the car when you're in the traffic jam, or something else, or somewhere else. Or say something nice to them, because she said, in my life review, she had twice a life review. First the normal one, and then the second one was only to look at the details, or the small things in life. And she noticed that if she would have said something to a guy, this guy wouldn't have gone home bashing his wife, and someone else wouldn't have tried to commit suicide, or would have thought a little bit longer after she would have said something nice to this person. So go about and try that 3 times a day. I try that. It's not easy, not always easy. Sometimes it's really wonderful if you get a reaction back. People will smile back at you.
So it's like you've gotten a nearr-death experience by proxy. You've talked to so many of them.
That's it. Yeah.
The truth. You've internalized it. Has it changed your life? You act differently now that you've talked to these people and have been exposed to this other side?
Yeah, it's a benign virus, as people say. That's not what I thought, but it does feel like that. I have this virus that the NDEs have, and it's a wonderful virus. Get it too by studying it. Read my book, for instance, or your listeners should do that.
Yeah. It
will change your life. It will change. It will make you happier, because you get a different point of view. It does that.
I think this is, again, one of those counterintuitive things. You've talked to a lot of people that have had near-death experiences. I know you wrote a book about your brother and his battle with AIDS. It's not that
you know everything.
I know. Hey, listen, I do a lot of research here at the Gigglebutt Studios. It's odd to me. I think it's counterintuitive and illogical that people that have been exposed to death in this way don't come out nihilistic. They come out, I don't, there's joyous is the word, but you see life, I think, anew, or you have a deeper appreciation of it. You smile at people in the street. And I think that's, I think it would be easier to slip into depression and nihilism, but not. That seems to be, is that the case with all of these people? They see death and they're different in a positive way.
Well, if you have had a near-death experience, you have seen such a wonderful thing. Really, you've seen real love, unconditional love, as I said, and you come back here and you compare that to what you see. What do you see here? Do you see love? Do you see what your government does is love? Do you see other governments do love? No. And so they see the discrepancy here, and they don't like it. They want to go back, and there's always going to be homesickness, and home is the other place. That's what they will have, some kind of homesickness. So it's difficult. That's why I said it's nice to have the experience, because you get to see so much which you cannot all bring back home. You cannot contain that in your little body, but you will also see that it's difficult to be in an environment that has so much limitation, that has so much non-love,
Right.
that it's difficult for them. In general, it takes, on average, it takes 7 years to get adapted again to your life. Some people do that within a month. Some people take 30 years. I've heard people using 30 years before they can act normal again, or normal, that they can adapt to life again. That's difficult. Think about that. 30 years, that's a long time.
That is a long time. I'm only 16, so I can't even imagine what 30 years feels like.
It's twice your age.
Don't like it. All right, let me ask you this one more question. We're coming up on the hour. I know that you were raised Catholic. Yes.
Yeah.
What don't I know? I too was raised Catholic.
Wow. So we have something else in common.
Did you get confirmed? Did you do the whole thing all the way up?
Everything.
Me too, baby. Then I turned in my Catholic
I
card.
can go to heaven now because I'm Catholic now.
Oh Jesus! I turned my card. I'm out. I'm out.
You cannot get out because you have been baptized. That's the idea.
If I get out,
it's not like being a part of a community or a
okay.
bowling.
So just in case Catholicism is correct, I get a ticket to heaven. That's nice. Well, I got that going for me. Okay, so
everyone goes to heaven. Everyone goes to heaven.
Okay, I guess that's part of this question here. So, raised Catholic, experience a whole bunch of people that had these near-death experiences. What do you believe in God? What do you think happens after we die? Where are you with this? Does it fit into traditional Western religion? What is your view?
The funny thing with Catholicism, especially with Roman Catholicism, is that they allowed everyone to draw God. So if you go into a church, you will sometimes see God and it being depicted. That's ridiculous because he's always an elderly man with a long beard sitting on a cloud surrounded by these little naked angels. Ridiculous. That's not the case. What I understand from NDEs is that we are all God. The whole thing is God. One NDE said, I was a speck of sand on the beach and the whole beach was God. So I'm part of God too. That's in between brackets what I say now. So it means that we are all God. We are part of the whole thing. That's why I said there's only one, there's a oneness. And if a child is born, part of the oneness goes into this child. The child is divine. I don't dare to say that, but Pol Pot is also from divine material.
Yeah, I had to bring I use Pol Pot example because I'm exhausted by Hitler.
I know.
It's just why you can't. Everyone goes Hitler. You got to go. There's
I know.
mass murderers. You know,
there are so many bad people out there.
No, why always Hitler? It gets exhausting. It's
not everyone knows who Pol Pot is. I think.
I know. Listen, this is an intelligent show. You gotta read around about your mass murderers from other countries because they exist. It's stop being so xenophobic with your mass murderers.
Stalin, Mao.
No, there's plenty of them. Yeah, the whole list goes on and on. It's conceptually bizarre that, okay, so we kind of know that we're all one. I think there's a consciousness. I think Einstein was working on something along these lines when he was right before he died. And then you start to think, if we know this, why aren't we better to each other? But humans are illogical creatures. We know that eating shitty food is bad for us. We do it. We know that not working out and playing video games is bad for us, but we do it. We know there's a lot of cognitive dissonance built into the human psyche. So that is another stage of illogicalness. It hurts. It hurts because we want to be rational creatures, but we do so many irrational things. If we were all nice to each other, we'd all be happier. But we can't seem to do it. We can't seem to not eat like shit. We can't seem to work out. It's strange.
It's free choice.
Yeah, but we always skew the wrong. Well, I don't know. Not all of us. You're not skewing the wrong way, but a lot of us do.
No, that's what I understand from NDEs. There's free will. We have the free will to choose. Yeah. So if we want to eat bad stuff, go ahead. Nothing will keep you from it. You can do something else. That's true. This is what I found in one of the NDEs. This NDE said, I saw that I did these things that were very bad to someone else. And the worst thing was not that I felt it from the other side, but also that I saw there were options, there were alternatives to do. And I failed to choose one of those because those would have added more love to the world. Now eating bad stuff or whatever, being on the computer for ages, that's bad for you too. But it's your choice. You can also do something else. If you're in a job that is poisonous to you and your brain system and your feelings, get out of it. Try to do that. There are always ways. You will be helped. So that's another thing that I understand from NDEs. There is always help. There, you may not feel that it's the right way, but maybe later on you will understand that that eventually it was. If you look back again, then you think it's better that I did that. It's good that I did that, or that I went out of the job or do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And to really understand all this deeply and firsthand, all we have to do is almost die. Oy vey. Why is this the system? Oh, it's so hard. All right, listen, I don't want to keep you any longer. We're coming up on the hour. Do you want to tell the people where to get your books, where they can see more of you, hear more of you?
Yeah, my book is available on Amazon, and you can find it there. And there, I have a website which is bobcopus.com, and there is, if people want to ask further questions, there's a form. They can always contact me, and I will always give answers. Beautiful. And it's wonderful to be on your show. I love the way you talk. I love the way you do this show, and your questions are really spot on.
Oh, thank you. I like to try to balance being a total idiot with asking things that seem vaguely intelligent. You know, it's that high-low approach.
Your questions are very intelligent.
No, thank you. Well, I do a lot of psychedelics. All right, listen, I'm gonna sign off the show, but do me a favor, stick around in the green room, and we're gonna debrief for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Great. We need to talk about you sponsoring my move to the Netherlands because I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to get out of here. You guys can stay in Nazi
We've
America.
got tulips everywhere here.
What's that?
We have tulips everywhere. I had my tulips out there for you.
I mean, I'm in it for the legalized prostitution, but the tulips are nice too. All right. I'll see you tomorrow, America. Goodbye.